Hello and welcome. Today I'm painting a tufted titmouse coming out of its home. I scrubbed my rock with soap and water and then let it dry thoroughly before adding my gesso. Then I draw my image onto my rock. Once that's done, I begin mixing my base coat. I begin with a base coat of a color that's close to the bird's natural color. Once I have all the base coats down, then I'll begin to add the details. I start the eye out with just a black circle, and I'll go in later and add some highlights in both blue and white. The beak also has quite a bit of blue in it. Now here I'm just adding some small brown areas so that when I go over it with white, it'll make it look like individual feathers. Now here I'm adding the first of many washes to the bottom shaded part of the bird. I add dark feathered areas that I'll go over with white and gray feathers later on. I thought the blue wasn't quite the right color, so I am going over it with a wash of ultramarine. I also start adding some details in the feathers on the back and then again in the chest area. Always make sure you do the strokes in the direction that the feathers grow. Here's another wash at the bottom. I always tried to do my shaded areas gradually with very thin coats of paint, and I just use water to thin it down. Here I'm doing a light wash of brown over the whole chest area. This will make the white feathers look more distinctive when I start adding them. While the bird dries, I start on the bark of the tree, just doing the line work with a wash of black. Now that the chest area is thoroughly dry, I begin to add my feathers in white. The tree bark is a bit of a challenge, and I never know exactly how it's going to turn out. If I don't like something, I just change it. And I do that almost every single time. I just keep adding layers until I think it looks right. And then if I don't think it looks right, then I just paint back over it. I usually add the feet after I've started the wood around the bird, just because they look like they're going over the top of it and I want to shade around them a little bit. I always add a lot of small cracks and little holes in the bark of the tree. I probably could have stopped here on the bark, but for some reason I didn't think it looked right, so I just keep adding, and then I eventually get to a place where I don't like, so then I go in and change some areas. Now this is where I'm changing it up a bit. I started adding a brown glaze around the knot of the tree. Then I started adding some gray bark in around that knot again. I added some dark lines also around the bark, and that just came in and brought out some highlights. But I still wasn't quite happy with the way the bark was on the left side, so I am going to make it more of a vertical bark. And I'm going in one more time with a nice wash around the bottom of the bird and darkening up that bark that I had changed to make it blend in a little bit better. Now once he's all dry, I'll put a couple coats of acrylic varnish and he'll be all set. Thanks so much for watching. I'm still learning the filming process, so if you have any suggestions, please leave them in the comments. Be sure to like and subscribe, and I'll see you in the next video.